that music means we are ready to dine. And today our food and wine columnist, Shiva Reddy, is back. And we are talking about all things cocktails. One of my favorite topics.
Right? We're going to be thirsty after this, not hungry today.
We are going to be thirsty. So let's start with basics. What trends are you noticing behind the bar?
Yeah, so I'm noticing that now when you go into a bar, you open up the menu and it's not just words. These are actual thematic stories. There's beautiful visuals as well. And they're just so thoughtful. And each cocktail has a persona, which I love. So I actually saw this at Prophecy, which just opened up downtown. Also at Lowai, where each wine, or rather each beverage, has a different character and persona as well. I'm seeing really interesting takes on sustainability, which I love. So you have kitchen teams collaborating with bar teams where they're not letting anything go to waste. So any of the trims, any of the leftover vegetables, for example, are being used and used to infuse. So you kind of see more flavors that are emulating classic dishes as well. Here you get to kind of see key lime pie or even a roast beef style of cocktail. I know, but it kind of works.
But then you look at you get a Caesar and it pretty much has a burger on top
Absolutely,
of it now.
yeah.
So, okay.
That comes with a whole meal. So we've been doing it for a while. But yeah, you also, as I mentioned, get to see kind of vegetal flavors. So things like snap peas, carrots, these are being infused into your cocktails as well. And then there's a huge take on low ABVs, so low alcoholic products or just no alcoholic products at all. I had the pleasure of chatting with one of my favorite bartenders, Andrew Kong. He is a part of the award-winning team of Suyo, just on Main Street. He's also an Amaro specialist, working with some of the best Amaros. He runs a little pop-up outside of his place, believe it or not, which is soon to be ending. But here he kind of shares really cool cocktails that he loves to infuse and that he's seeing around town as well.
Like hojicha infused into whiskeys, especially Japanese whiskeys is super tasty. Vanilla rooibos tea infused into Campari is a fantastic one. Some of my other bartender friends would have oak moss as a cordial, which is lichen or a moss. And you can find really unique flavors out of people that are pushing boundaries and those sort of ingredients that they play around with.
Right. So one of my favorites recently happened to be this cedar infused gimlet.
Oh.
So just tangy, refreshing, and kind of foresty as well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What spirits are you finding exciting that are worthy of a spot at your home bar?
Yeah, right. I need to build that home bar.
I think we all do.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the go-to is gin. I love having it. It's so versatile. You can do so much with it. I also love soju. So Korean spirit distilled with rice. With this one, you have different flavors as well. I added one to a martini, so kind of half and half with a sweeter vermouth. And it just added this beautiful richness. I also think that you should try some mezcal. It's distilled from 100% agave. It's cooked on open pit fires. And so it has this beautiful smokiness. And then you can kind of exchange it into things like not martinis rather, but really beautiful negronis. And then there's a new up and coming style of spirit that we're about to see. Here, Andrew tells me all about what to look forward with raicilla.
There's legal talk around what is tequila. Same now with what is mezcal, and only 9 states are allowed to produce mezcal in certain ways, etc. Raicilla kind of is outside that boundary because many states in Mexico make mezcal or historically made mezcal, but they aren't included on that list. So now there's things popping up that basically are mezcal, but just can't legally be called mezcal. And the flavors are quite drastically different as well. So raicilla is a really interesting one that I think people will start to move into coming with mezcal.
And I love that because things like raicilla and mezcal, they're just so interesting. They almost for me, fall into I know it's a spirit, but it kind of falls into that realm of tea or wine where they just have so much character.
Yeah, and so many different flavors and elements to it.
Yeah, and all I want to do is sip on it. Yeah.
Are there any products that, can really bring together a cocktail?
Yeah, so these are the ones that I highly recommend having in your bar. These are the supporting role, the best players to have on your team. I love things like sherry, sherry coming from Spain. Now, we all often think of sherry being a little bit sweeter in style, but it has a range from being bone dry like Fino sherry or having something a little bit fuller and richer like an Oloroso. This will add a nice richness and nuttiness to your drink as well as maybe saltiness. Vermouth amazing. You have vermouth in two styles. You have white vermouth. They can be dried. That's kind of the martini one that we often see that's kind of been in the fridge for a long time. No, they go bad. So use it quick. And then there's sweet ones as well. So I love like a sweet Cokie Americano style, the Bianco. So delicious. And then you have really beautiful vermouths like Antica Formula for the red side. Honestly, Cinzano works so well. She's delicious. And then obviously I had to talk to Andrew about Amaros, but he basically told me that, you know, you have this range of Amaros. The base is made of spirits. Different kinds of bitters kind of happen here. So you can see things like Campari. The one he recommended that you buy is something like Amaro Montenegro. If you're just starting off, it has a beautiful floral quality. It's less bitter. And then it's going to have some nice sweetness to it as well. And then you can kind of play with things like a Negroni with all of these products and make riffs off of all of them.
What about a cocktail that you would recommend people try making at home? I'm always looking for like that new one for the summer.
Totally. So with all of those products there, so I like the idea of a Negroni. And then with a Negroni, you can kind of exchange things out. I love the idea of replacing that gin from the Negroni with that mezcal. Also, different kinds of martinis, switching out different kinds of gins as well. And then if you look at the actual Negroni as well, you can have things like a spagliato. So taking out the actual gin base there, or taking out the gin, replacing it with soda to make something lighter like an Americano. And then having a Boulevardier as well. Boulevardier, so you have your Campari, you'll have your vermouth, but hey, add in a little whiskey instead. And then finally, there's the good old experiment. If you want to experiment, why not make a little clarified milk punch? So here, Andrew tells me all about how to make a clarified milk punch, something that when I first met, I could not stop drinking, and still to this day, absolutely love.
Okay.
So you're using milk as an ingredient, and you're using the spirit and the acids in the cocktail to force curdle the milk. So then you've got, lumps of curds floating around in your cocktail, and you just strain it out using a coffee strainer. But yeah, essentially you're straining out all the milk solids and you're left with mostly whey. Kind of gives your cocktail a really silky flavor, and it also kind of like dulls a lot of the aggressive, sharp notes of many like certain spirits and things.
And so with that, you can use so many different kinds of bases for that. Rum, incredible. Gin, delicious. And so you can experiment quite a bit. My favorite take on that was a creamsicle style. Ooh. And also, feel free to pre-batch your cocktails as well. Put in the ingredients for a Negroni.
So efficient.
Put in your fridge. Have a little bit. You don't have to have a cold cocktail, but you can have a good time nonetheless.
Love it. I know some people find it a bit overwhelming to order a cocktail when they're out. So what tips can you give them? Yes.
So verbiage is key. So I highly recommend, going into a bar and talking with your bartender and asking, hey, what is it that I want? I want something maybe spirit forward. Maybe I want something refreshing and tangy. Avoid asking hey, what is the popular drink? Because that might not be the right drink for you. And then what I loved was that Andrew kind of put it in this way of, hey, what's your ketchup? And, I heard that and I was like, I'm sorry, what? But a bartender's ketchup is essentially, hey, what is that ingredients that you're so excited about? What is that infusion that you're so excited about that you'd like me to kind of be the guinea pig of, so that you know that you're setting yourself up for success that way. And hey, if you know what you like for me, I love a Negroni. I love a Manhattan. I tell that to a bartender and they'll make a riff off of that for you.
Nice.
So words help. Who would have thought?
Words do
They
help.
do. They sure do.
Thank you, as always, Shiva. And now I want to go get a cocktail.
There you are.
Okay, thanks. Shiva Reddy is our guide in the world of food and wine. She joins us every Monday around this time. She's a sommelier at the Michelin-starred restaurant Burdock & Co. And she has a new TV series out called Not Your Buttered Chicken. You can follow her adventures on Instagram at itsready91.